I'm going to start my speech. A world where we give power to these rebellious and dangerous units that exist in the world is a world full of harm, gamble, and no guarantee of security. In this debate, we will prove to you, judges, and we will deliver the burden that we would protect these developing countries in giving a stable security of the nation. I'll be setting up this debate and crystallise it under three setups. Firstly, what the world of supporting these insurgency groups would look like. A world of supporting this insurgency group would look like a world of violence against the leaders of nations. They would use means of immoral ways and also in conventional ways to resolve matters that exist in the status quo. They would use um, they would create situations like, for example, they would target people. They would target elite groups or hierarchy of nations in a way that is destructive and destroyable. Moving on to my second setup then. What is this guerrilla warfare in the terms of insurgency group? A guerrilla warfare is a war that has the goal to eliminate an opponent, no matter what, in which these people that are being subjected to be targets uh, has a contradictory communal values of these group of values of the groups of this insurgent group and that certain group only. They operate in conventional circumstances that disregard ethicality. E.g., they would do, I don't know, like coup d'etats to eliminate certain people with their only one-sided perspective of an eye, because this is rebellion and such. Secondly, let's characterize what developing countries is like. Developing countries is a state of nation in which they lack a power in the socio-political sphere of the status quo. They lack the things, resources, economically, whether economically or politically. They just stand in a stance in which they are undermined by the existence of powerhouse country. Thirdly, then, what do we want in this debate? We would provide a counterfactual, factual, which we would just do things by we would which we would just resolve issues in a non-violent way through diplomacy. Moving on to my arguments then there would be two contributions under my side. Firstly, why is this supporting the insurgency groups are not justified? And secondly, why is it practically harming for developing nations? On to my first argument then. Firstly, why is this not justified and not ethical? We will prove to you, judges, that their ways isn't morally upright. I think the premise here is simple. These insurgent groups are rebels that at the very beginning was formed only grew up in a habitat of violence, right? That is what their group mainly is from, and habitualized from. By that it means the characteristic of destructive is inherent to their value as a group. This doesn't align in what a nation should be. Firstly, nations should target people and authorities. Nations shouldn't target people and authorities in such destructive way, such as immediately like targeting or like killing and such the leaders. Even if these nations have an issue, a problematic issue with other nations, for example, what we think developing nations should do is that um they would do instead the they would do instead the, resolve the matters in diplomacy terms, not by sending a military group to attack them. Even if there is a conflict, this isn't an action that should be done. Uh, I think we win. I think we stand in these terms. Why then? This does not align with nation's purpose to cater. Firstly, this doesn't align with the nation's purpose to cater the majority of voice. Note that we're in the context of developing countries, right? The judges mostly developing countries has a dynamic of a society in which people do not want to inflict harms or like destruction to other nations other nations. This is why I think isn't likely and like isn't justified or like ethically aligns with the society as nations, especially in developing nations, have the identity of populism in which they will listen and they are obliged to cater to the whims these of their majority of population anyway. This is any this is why comparatively we think it not only it won't be likely to happen, but it also won't be deemed as ethically correct to the society. We think developing nations should oppose this. Secondly, second argument: why is it practically harming them? As to what my characterization, developing countries are nations with no security in the status quo. They do not have the they do not have the powers in like developed nations. There exist problems within the state of the country they're in that comes in its structural body. There will be instances like in the inherent nations in the inherent nation structurally, there would be issues that are that are that are in the own nation. We think this would really harm the nations if we incorporate and integrate insurgent groups. Firstly, let's characterize these insurgent groups. They target the head of a certain unit, like I said. They have their own worldview perspective in the world. No judges, you have to know that they have their own worldview perspective, even if opposition say that it won't happen if it's because it will be coordinated with these nations. But I think since they grew up in like in such way, I think that it is likely to happen. It is likely that they will not oblige it. We do not have the immediate interest of them. This then, by the power that they've given by these developing countries, would then make these insurgency group to do whatever they want, especially after being leveraged in such political power. Why is it harming then? Within the nation, there exist loopholes in its whole formality of the nation. We say when we give this dangerous group a chance to do so, they could bring the nation in the wrong way. There are several harms likely to happen. Firstly, insurgent groups would hamper the relations of the nations in a global sphere. Uh, Very proud to propose. Like the first figure of competition, about the basic first figure of all period.
Okay, I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Before I start my speech, I would like to do some rebuttal to the proposition side of the house. The first is, if I was not mistaken, feel free to correct me if I made any mistake. The first speaker of the proposition side of the house said that the world with insurgent groups will be a world of chaos. If these people or insurgent group was heard at the first place and not silenced, they will not need to launch attacks against the authorities. And second is when the first speaker of the opposition house said that nations shouldn't target authorities in a destructive ways. Again, once these people was hurt and silenced, they will not need to do it in such a destructive ways. And once they got what they wanted, they will stop attacking the authorities. Also, they only attack people because they were suffering from abuse of powers. Panels. In most cases, insurgent groups formed because the voices of the people wasn't heard enough. The authorities think that they can easily silence people below them just because they have the power to choose to not listen and to choose to silence the people below them. This abuse of power mainly triggers the people to form an insurgent groups who attacks the authorities. That's why these attacks keeps happening. That's why we need to let them have political powers. Ladies and gentlemen, these people do these attacks so they can be heard because they wasn't heard in the first place. After they are heard and the authorities granted what they pursue, after they are heard and the authorities granted what they actually pursue, they will be most likely to attack. They will be most likely to not attack the authority again, as they will feel like they will be a part of the authority and they will also have responsibility to keep its peace because again they were silenced and it triggers the rebellion in the violent insurgents and and after they get silent and shut down, they do those that were say they will do those actions that were said to be destructive actions because they wanted to actually express what they want. Why is this insurgent group justified? Yes.
You stated how their voices are silenced and so that they wanted to be heard. But how can the opposition guarantee by giving them the political power, their attacks will eventually stop? Please respond.
Um, I will let my second speaker answer that. And also, the next is why is this insurgent group justified? It's because the insurgent groups only attack authorities and not the whole nation, and only for certain purposes. They are different from terrorists, as has been stated in the motion. They only attack because they weren't hurt and because they were suffering from abuse of power, and not from discriminalization. And also, ladies and gentlemen, this proposal is going to involve less violence because, as I have stated before, once they gain political power, they will be heard and they will stop the attack against authorities. And that is why we're from the opposition side of the house proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Highlighting violence in our current realistic world is a world where everyone is going to be influenced into thinking we, as a general part of society, allows and support it. In that world, the act in our case is which is politics, is highly will more likely to be recognized as dangerous and undisciplined. We realize that in our current status quo, politics should be a standard of law and should be the standard of our society. These authorities or our leaders of the nation, especially within the characterization of a developing country, should really maximize the standard where which they will bring the country in a more possible growth in the long-term benefit wise. Moving on, within my speech, I would like to provide a few contribution. First off, I would like to clarify certain things within our arguments, and later on, I will put out some responses towards what is explicitly not characterized or even explicitly told by what by the opposition
side of the House have stated, and I will also provide more so elaborative and extensions towards our arguments. Firstly, one sort of clarification. We would like to talk about how we deeply will regret when we choose to not oppose this motion. What will we not, what we will, what it is that we will regret. What we will regret is the misuse of power to exceed and rebellious standard. As we all know, and as what has been explained by my first speaker, it is no longer something that we are not familiar of, that these insurgent groups are mostly built within an armed rebellion mindset. It is something that we must keep in mind because we're talking about a political status that will eventually lead the growth of a country, especially within a developing country. Moving on, we would like to give out again an emphasis towards the sense of uh, idea that we would like to champion within our side of the house, and how we would explicitly like to say that only in our side of the house it is exclusively is able for us to provide with, because in the opposition side of the house clearly they seem to be misunderstanding how they are really what is the means of these insurgent groups in saying that they want to be heard, when really they can't even properly respond toward how much these attacks that have been proven to be done will eventually be minimized if they are given political power. Therefore, moving on to my response, our side's response toward what the opposition side of the house has said, they talked about how, again, maybe these insurgent groups are just mainly misunderstood or underestimated within because they feel like their voices or their mindset is just simply not being heard. But we would like to argue back that, again, the opposition side of the house cannot deeply guarantee that by giving them this political power will ensure that there will no longer be violent attacks. We don't want to let any slip ups, even just the minor slip ups, to let the whole country in shambles and shaken the authorities that are supposed to be the leaders of our country. Therefore, we would like to let you know, judges, that our arguments will be more substantive and of course exclusive within our burden of proof, unlike what the opposition side of the house said, because clearly one argument cannot support the majority of problems that we are facing in the current status quo, such as current warfares that are happening because of misunderstandings or maybe a misuse of power. We don't want that to happen again. Continuing on, we would like to re-emphasize within our arguments that talked about how it is, again, morally not justified. Although we encourage everyone, and I mean everyone, to take part within the rights in an election when provided a media in obtaining power in a political range, who becomes a part in beholding that power is up to the public judgment. I would like to emphasize how it is up to the public judgment, and of course the compromise standard that the jurisdiction within most developing countries provides. Even when we're talking not in a developing country context, of course we all know that the jurisdiction is a behold law that we need to follow, especially within an election. We see how within political power it is needed a few judging tip point, and to which that there's a few, but I would like to clarify three. One is about social background, two is about parties, and three mainly is about electability. Let's talk about social background. Of course, within our debate it'll be very relevant because we are talking about these people who are a part of this certain group that clearly has a rebellious or a more violent social background. How can we underestimate that within just letting them use a mere power within our nation that has the whole entire power to lead growth and give out a good standard within discipline of our nation in order to really provide them a good resource to provide good use of power within the jurisdiction. Continuing on, we talk about parties. Again, if we're just going to merely let them join parties, either way they will have political power, and for that they will still possibly misuse that power, because when we talked about the social background part, the standardized of certain people within these groups do not fulfill it. Continuing on, we talked about electability. Again, electability, that means they have to at least have a sort of understanding within the political minds, because they need to, in the end, compromise their value if they want to be elected within and be given a political power. And so that we would like to show you, judges, how that clearly proves that it doesn't put up to the standard of being morally justified within the political status. Continuing on, on, we would like to add on an argument where it talks about how in the end it would shaken the growth of the developing country. We have stated this many times, but I would like to further extension and elaborate it. How aspects such as this, which is in the speak of it as a political aspect, arouses a bunch of questions on the growth of a certain developing countries. Politics, okay, correlates with the law, and as we all know, and as I would assume we all know, is how it accurately is the backbone of our country because of the leaders and the authorities within it. And of course, going back to the definition in our current status quo, we see how these insurgency groups only attack authorities, and that is our main issue with these insurgent groups. They attack the authorities when they are trying to when the opposition side of the house is trying to fight for their place within giving them a political power, when in the end their mindset and their action is just merely contradictive because they want to attack them, not to become them, just to be heard. In the end, these attacks is going to influence violence. So with that, we would like to talk to you how it would impact in the end only from our side of the house. By opposing to the practices within giving power to violent insurgent groups, we believe that it will in the end provide a sense of security. By letting the nation's citizens know that they are in a good hand, this sense of security is not going to be exposed when new judges instead follow within supporting the rights that is given by the opposition side of the house. And so with that, we believe that we have proven enough how our side is giving towards the aim that we have given, that is a burden of proof, unlike what the opposition side of the house has stated. And with that, we would like to ensure security and sustainability within all nations throughout from any danger. With that, we are proud to propose. Thank you.
The second speaker of proposition, John Mayor, PY is encouraged to act so please do so in the next speaker. Yeah, tuwing sa natin sa proposition ng second okay.
All right, panels, before I begin to my argument, I would like to respond to the POI that has been given to my first speaker. Now, the POI was, how can we guarantee that this insurgent group will stop attacking the government or will stop rebelling? Now, I will begin, or I will explain on that more later on my argument, but the short of it is that by giving them a power to this, to the political power, this will stop them from attacking, as they will become part of that authority. So any attack that they do will also be cost to them. Now, I would also like to rebut some of the first speaker of the proposition team. Now, they said that they want to stop to have the most non-violent way. Now, we believe that our way is the most non-violent way that there is, and that this is a solution. While the proposition team said that we cannot apply this motion, but still they did not give a solution how we can stop this insurgency, this violence, this group. Now, which is what I will talk about later in my argument. Now, that they also said that the insurgents group will do whatever they want in the political power. Now, we can limit that by not giving them full control of the nation. The motion only set political power. It does not say that the insurgent group will have full control of the country. We will, of course, let them have some sort of political power where they can be heard, their voices can make a change, where whatever they want, what they can do it politically without needing the use of violence, which again reduces the needs of violence. Panels, I need to emphasize that we are not supporting violence. We are not wanting to allow violence in the government or in political parties. We just want a way to reduce this violence, and that is by giving this group power, a political power. Again, we can guarantee them not stop attacking, as they can make changes by doing political actions instead of giving violence ways and attacking them, as they can, as now that they are part of the political power, they have the power to change, to support what they believe in, to help the people with which they are, of course, mainly being the voice of. Now, panels, in the info panel, it is an insurgency is a violent armed rebellion. Yes?
I would like you to re-emphasize or give out an explanation how giving them political power can change them in a personal level.
I am starting to get into that. Now, panels, in the info panels, it is said that an insurgency is a violent armed rebellion. Now, rebellion is caused by sort of oppression. This insurgency group, as my first speaker has said, just wanted to be heard. Rebellion is, of course, caused by oppression. A rebellious kid is caused by a parent that's too overprotective, too overburdening, too indulging in their privacy. And again, rebellion is caused by this insurgency. Rebellion is caused by the government itself suppressing them, not giving them what they want, especially in developing countries. Ladies and gentlemen, in developing countries, it is it is usually the government who are getting the benefits of everything, and sometimes they do not care about their people. They are only care about the higher ups, the higher rankings, the government. And by having this insurgency group a part of those political power, they are the voice of the people. They have a chance to change the government, to be a better political government, a better nation, to have to finish things without needing the cause of violence. And of course, again, they are not the highest control of the country. They are still higher ups, but they still have voices that can influence the nation. And they will, of course, be monitored, as they are, of course, have a, yes?
By giving them power, you don't have guarantee that these nations will be secure. There could be whodunits in their own country, even from like a small slight mistake in their own structure of the nation. Please respond.
Now, yes, this is why I was saying earlier that they will be monitored. As of course they are most likely just normal people. They are not trained politicians. They will be monitored. They will be, they all of their information, of course, will be needed, where they live, where their family. That is against to reduce the to mitigate them doing unreasonable actions or violence in the political party, and so that we can guarantee that they also get sort of help from any political party that they might view as true, or they view as in the same direction as their beliefs. Now, uh, ladies and gentlemen, again, the cause of violence is the theory of violence explains that violence is one of the reason is caused by the abuse of power. Now, again, by having this insurgent group having a sort of political power, but not the highest amount of power, we can impact the whole nation by having voices of the people in the political party itself, and being able to solve problems without needing the actions of violence. And it is why we, in our side of the house, we believe that it is exclusively the only way to solve the problems of the countries without needing violence and stopping these insurgency groups. Thank you.
Second speaker, position of responsibilities of position, linker, position, career.
Judges, under opposition, they're playing in a very utopic scenario, in a very safe and angelic scenario, where they never consider how it'll actually harmful for us to give them these types of people that actually promoting violence in this status quo in the society, where they attack the head of countries, where it's obvious that they only will actually like being harmful at the end of the day. The underside of proposition, they never consider how it'll actually be harmful for us to give them political power, where under at the end of the day, no guarantee that once they are giving that they are receive the political power, that they will stop like attacking the countries and things like that. We think by nature these types of people will just prioritize what they want, and once it's not fulfilled, they will just go and like use their old personalities to just attack and like being harmful in the current status quo. But then secondly, they never really engaged to our case, where we said that it's never really like necessary to like give like political power. We don't think it's important. I'll explain to you afterwards why it's true. But then thirdly, they're not protecting the vulnerable actors. You see how under their side of the house, they said that like these types of people won't be harmful since they only attack the head of the nations and things like that. So they won't like be like terrorists harming the countries in general. But I think they are not actually like protecting the vulnerable actors, since like at the end of the day, when they let there's like hole where there's a chance for these types of people to like attack the head of countries and things like that. I think like at the end of the day, it's gonna be harmful towards all the countries in general, like, since like it's obvious since you when you lose the head of countries, you'll just be in like certain chaos. And I don't think they fulfill to actually protect the vulnerable actors in this debate. But a main clash in this debate, I think like under both side, what's important to do, like under both side should actually prove why it's morally justified, right? To like do these certain things. But under side of opposition, what I want to rebut it's that the idea on their side is that granting political powers towards this like insurgent group is for them to be hurt and things like that. I don't think this is gonna be like more likely under their side of the house. They never prove to us why it's important and things like that. I think this is silly and morally unjustified, since you can't let these types of group that literally obviously attacks and actually harming the countries to just having more control in the country just for them to be hurt. We think this is very unimportant, and this just gonna be more harmful at the end of the day. um, since what you firstly we think what's important is you need to firstly consider the impact that will stem afterwards under your side of the house. Giving political power is harmful, since by nature the insurgent groups are adopting violence. We don't think you should be gambling the national security just for them to be heard and things like that. But second rebuttal, um, the giving of political power, they did not give a guarantee that prosperity will be successful under their side of the house. But then thirdly, how they characterize that these people would be having no political they're having political power. But I think this is silly. It's super harmful. The opposition side runs a case in which one of the people with power cannot run the country. But why are we comparatively better than opposition? Three main reasonings. Firstly, there's urgency that we think what you need to protect in the very first place is the national security of the developing countries. Secondly, it's vulnerable more under our side of the house, since we're gonna be much more protective towards like the countries. At the end of the day, it's gonna be much more better under our side of the house. But thirdly, it's gonna be more likely under outside the house, since we prove to you that at the end of the day, giving them more political powers won't actually be much more beneficial. At the end of the day, harm will just stem under their side of the house. Side proposition stand against what opposition believe. I beg you to propose.
Proposition
One thing that the government side of the house forget is that under their side of the house, the violence more likely going to happen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, under our side of the house, under side opposition, we believe and we support that we support the practice of granting political power to insurgent group, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that violent insurgent, they are rebellion, of course, yes. It's because they always get silent, they always get shut down, and therefore they cannot actually express what they actually want, right, ladies and gentlemen? So the only way that they can express what they want, the only way that they can express their interest is through attack, so that these big authorities can actually see them and see their interest, ladies and gentlemen. So, according to the theory of conflict, ladies and gentlemen, conflict can happen due to abuse of power of these who is an authority. So, under this case, there will be no freedom for this specific group, or there will be no freedom for this insurgent, and that's why they are rebellion and they do attacks. Okay, so under their side of the house, under the government side of the house, they stated that there will be no violence and they will use diplomacy instead, as the first speaker of the opposite government side of the house has already said before. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how will this group of people, how these insurgents will do diplomacy if they themselves they don't have that political power? And this is remain a question under side proposition. Therefore, their case cannot be stand in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, government side of the house stated that it will be more harmful us, under our side of the house, because if we give them the political power, then they will have a bigger power. They will becoming more they will becoming more powerful, so that they can do more attacks to these authorities and stuff like that. So, two responses on this. Firstly, no, it won't happen because they don't have that huge amount of power, as our second speaker have already stated before. We don't grant them that huge of power that they can change the politic itself or change the people in political fields in that certain area, or establish rules that only in line with their interests and not the society's interest. Because again, the discussion between if we give them if we give these people from insurgents group political power, it means that they gather with other people that with different point of view, so that the only thing so that their interest is not the only thing that are going to happen, even if they actually have that political power. So, second point, but let's just imagine that they really do have that kind of power. They're really able to actually change the whole thing. So even if they do have that amount of power, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that it's still less likely to happen. We believe that this insurgents group less likely will going to make chaos in public the moment they have that political powers, ladies and gentlemen. But why? Because the moment they have that political power, it means that they are the part of the authorities itself, ladies and gentlemen. They're the part of the authority, so it means that it's less likely for them to attack the authority, because they are now the part of it, right? They somehow feel the responsibility to also keep its peace, because again, they're the part of the authorities itself. Yes.
Let's talk about the group that does diplomacy, but not the national officials handle issues that solve the power of the government.
Okay, we believe that it still cannot be done, since under our side of the house, we believe that by not giving these people political power, it means that their voice will still be shut it down, as what happening in our status quo right now. In our status quo, they don't have that power to actually express they don't have that power to actually express their interest, right? Then they cannot do diplomacy, they cannot do some things that they can express their feeling, because again, in the very first place, to this point where this rebellion happened, they cannot do that, right? That's why they do the rebellion itself. So under their side that they said that they will use diplomacy. We believe that, yeah, it won't happen under their side. And also, they're talking about there will be less violence under their side of the house, but we believe that under their side of the house didn't give these people a political power. It means that these people, they are oppressed. They cannot express their interest, right? They are being oppressed, so that's why they will do rebellion to they will do rebellion for there will be rebellion, so that their interest will be expressed. So that's why we believe that violence will still happen under both side of the house, but under their side of the house it will be much much worse. And because of that, we're so proud to oppose. Thank you.
All right, panels. So I stand before you as the rebel speaker, and I would like to do a bit of comparison on both of our arguments, and let me begin saying that our side of the house, has been saying from the beginning that this insurgent group is, we believe that they are being oppressed, that their violence is caused by them being oppressed, not being able to voice their voices being heard, and that their rebellion is of course caused by the abuse of power by the government itself. And by giving them this political power, we can stop their violence in a political way. They can do their actions in a political way as part of the political power. And again, we have said that they will not get the full political power of the whole country, being able to make rules, change lands, but they will have a small part, a big enough part to be able for their voices to be heard, to be an influence, so that their beliefs can be heard. Now, let me compare that to the proposition side of the house argument. They first of all, they say that they want to reduce violence, and yet they do not. The only way is that they can do it politically, which is again is our our belief that it can be done politically by giving them those political power. The proposition team has not given another reason or another way to reduce this violence. If we don't give them political power, then this violence will still be continued. They will still feel rebellious, and they will want to have political power. Now, we can guarantee them not we can guarantee them stop to attack by, of course, monitoring them, getting all of their informations to make sure that they themselves do not start attacking using the power that they already have. And of course, now that they are part of the authority itself, everything that they do will of course affect them. So any attack will of course do harm to themselves, as they are now part of those authority. And which is why we as the proposition team we as the opposition team fully believe that this insurgents group should have political power. Thank you.
I will start my stage. 3, 2.
Judges, to sum up our debate, we have seen a propelling debate today within whether or not we should oppose of the practice within granting political power towards violent insurgent groups within developing countries. Judges, to sum up this debate, I would like to explain what our major contributions are in this debate as the proposition side of the team. We would like to provide you again with some conclusion within our two main ideas. When one, we give you an ethical and stable alternative instead of dangerous ways of relying on insurgent groups. We say relying because there is no point of guarantee that was in the end given by the opposition side of the House within whether or not, in giving them even the slightest power within a political power, is going to ensure their violent ways to eventually stop or be minimized. Continuing on, we also provide a second idea about how we would provide a more better guarantee which within a national security status. We talked about how, because giving political power to them is a total gamble, we would instead ensure that in the end, they would be extremely opposed of until they have changed their ways. As an alternative, we give out diplomacy, but it's clear that the opposition side of the House is clearly getting this wrong because in the end, it's not the group that does the diplomacy. We are talking about the nation itself. So what does the effect even give in the end if they're talking about their voices not being heard? This diplomacy is going to be a recognition from the nation itself because they should know if the main problem is violence within their country, to develop it with the more insurance, with the more stable leader that they already have. Probably they would instead use that opportunity in the diplomacy alternative. And with that, continuing on, I would like to explain a couple major clashes within this debate. First thing is the fact that we had a clash within the definition of our debate motion today, that is defining the word, which is defining the motion that is political power within this motion. From our side, we define that as the power that influences the national dynamic in a socio-political sphere of the nation, and it may be inherently to the nation's itself standing ideology and choices that made the face and circumstances of the nation. So in the end, it influences how the country interact in relations with external forces of the nation, external or internal forces of the nation. And so with that, it gives you a clear mindset how clearly it does not matter how much political party they have, it will still matter. And so with that, we are going to continue to emphasize the fact that if they are still in these kinds of groups, it's clear that they don't want to be hurt. But there are most people within this group that maybe just want to even affect within a radical mindset. So with that, we also would like to argue again how our alternative is more excluded within our side, because not only that the opposition is misunderstanding it, but also they did not provide any likelihood of their alternative to happen in a more so majority cases, whereas that kind of alternative is just going to likely happen within a dream world, and it's not really realistic. And instead, ours is clearly proven even by the law, so it's clearly more realistic and reliable within our status quo. And with that, we as the government side of the House have fulfilled our burden in this debate. But in the end, we would like to re-emphasize how the exclusivity may be provided in their state, but we provide a more clear solution, and for that, we are prouder to propose. Thank you.
Debaters may take wait for the result.